sex is strange. When you stop and think about it, it's one of the most bizarre and complicated things life ever invented. It's messy, inefficient, and often dangerous, yet it's everywhere. From the smallest fungi to the largest whales, most complex life on Earth reproduces sexually. This raises a huge question, one of the biggest in evolutionary biology. Why? Why did sex evolve in the first place, and why has it stuck around? The alternative seems so much better. Asexual reproduction or cloning is straightforward. An organism just makes a copy of itself. It's fast, it's reliable, you don't need to find a partner. A single bacterium can become a colony of millions in a day. A single aphid can start a whole new population on a plant. Every single individual in an asexual population can produce offspring. Now compare that to sexual reproduction. First, you have the problem of finding a mate. This takes time and energy. Animals have to call, display, fight, and travel, often putting themselves at risk of being eaten just for the chance to mate. Plants have to produce elaborate flowers and nectar to attract pollinators. It's a huge investment. Then there's the biggest problem of all, something biologists call the twofold cost of sex. Think about a population of lizards. In an asexual species, every lizard is a female, and every female can lay eggs and produce more lizards. The population can grow very quickly. In a sexual species, roughly half the population is male. Males don't lay eggs, they don't give birth, they contribute genes, but they don't produce offspring themselves. So, an asexual population can theoretically grow twice as fast as a sexual one. From a purely mathematical standpoint, any asexual female that pops up in a sexual population should outcompete her sexual relatives in just a few generations. Her lineage should take over, but it doesn't. Sexual species are the norm. There's another cost too. The cost of meiosis. When you reproduce sexually, you only pass on half of your genes to each offspring. The other half comes from your partner. If you were a clone, you'd pass on 100% of your genes. Evolution is all about getting your genes into the next generation. Sex seems to cut your success rate in half right from the start. It's like buying a lottery ticket and then throwing half of it away before the draw. So, the puzzle is this. Sex is costly, it's inefficient, it's risky. It should have been outcompeted by simple, clean cloning a billion years ago. The fact that it wasn't means the benefits of sex must be enormous. They have to be big enough to overcome that twofold cost and all the other disadvantages. Finding out what those benefits are is the key to understanding the origin of sex. To start, we have to go way back. Not to the dinosaurs, not even to the first fish, but to the world of single-celled organisms over a billion years ago. The very first life forms, bacteria and archaea, were asexual. They reproduced by splitting in two. It was simple and effective, but even these simple organisms were not just making perfect copies. They were already experimenting with swapping bits of DNA. They have processes like conjugation, where one bacterium can build a little bridge to another and pass over a piece of its genetic code. They can also just slurp up bits of DNA from their environment, maybe from a dead neighbor. This is called horizontal gene transfer. It's not sex in the way we think of it. There are no males and females, no eggs and sperm, but it's a crucial first step. It's gene mixing. It shows that from very early on, life found a benefit in acquiring new genetic information from sources other than direct inheritance. It was a kind of proto-sex. True sex, the kind that involves the fusion of two cells to make a new organism, seems to have appeared with the eukaryotes. These are the cells that make up all complex life, including us. Unlike bacteria, eukaryotic cells have a nucleus that holds their DNA and other complex machinery. Around 1.2 billion years ago, we see the first fossil evidence of an organism that was clearly reproducing sexually. It was a type of red algae. In these fossils, we can see cells that look like spores and some that look like sperm and egg cells. This tells us that, by this point, the basics of sexual reproduction were already in place. So, sometime between the rise of these complex cells and the appearance of this red algae, sex was invented. The question is why? What was happening in the world that made this costly, complicated process a winning strategy? There isn't one single, universally accepted answer. Instead, there are several big ideas, and the truth is probably a combination of them. One of the most powerful and popular explanations is called the Red Queen hypothesis. The name comes from Lewis Carroll's Through the Looking Glass, where the Red Queen tells Alice, it takes all the running you can do to keep in the same place. This idea proposes that sex is all about an evolutionary arms race. Imagine you are a long-lived organism, like an oak tree. You are stuck in one place. You are constantly under attack by things that evolve much, much faster than you do. Parasites, bacteria, viruses, and fungi. A single oak tree might live for 500 years. In that time, a bacterium attacking its roots could go through millions of generations. This gives the parasites a huge evolutionary advantage. They are constantly evolving new ways to get past the tree's defenses. If the oak tree and all its offspring were perfect clones, they would all have the exact same set of genetic defenses. Once a parasite evolved the right key to unlock those defenses, it could wipe out the entire population. Sex is the tree's ultimate defense. Every time two oak trees reproduce, they shuffle their genes. It's like shuffling a deck of cards. The offspring gets a new, unique combination of genes from both parents. This means each new seedling has a slightly different set of locks on its cells. The parasite that evolved a key for the parent's lock might find that it doesn't work on the offspring. Sex creates moving targets. It constantly generates new genetic diversity, keeping the parasites guessing. The Red Queen isn't just about trees. It applies to all sexual organisms. We are in a constant battle with pathogens that are evolving at incredible speeds. Our immune systems are a direct result of this arms race. The genes that control our immune systems are some of the most diverse in our entire genome. Sex is constantly shuffling these genes, creating new combinations that might be able to fight off the next new flu virus or bacterial infection. In this view, sex is a defense mechanism. The huge cost of sex is worth it because the alternative, being a clone, means eventual extinction by disease. You have to keep running, keep changing your genetic locks just to stay in the game. Another major idea focuses not on outside threats, but on internal problems. This is the Muller's Ratchet hypothesis. It's about the slow, steady accumulation of bad mutations. Every time a cell divides, there's a tiny chance of a copying error in the DNA. This is a mutation. Most mutations are harmless. Some are beneficial, but many are slightly harmful. They might make an enzyme a little less efficient or a protein a little less stable. These are called deleterious mutations. In an asexual organism, these mutations are a one-way street. Imagine a single-celled creature that splits in two. If it has one bad mutation, both of its offspring will have that mutation. If one of them then acquires another bad mutation, its descendants will have two. The mutations just pile up. The only way for a lineage to get rid of a bad mutation is for that individual and all its descendants to die. There's no way to go backwards to produce an offspring that is cleaner than the parent. The genetic ratchet clicks forward, accumulating more and more mutational baggage with each generation. Over time, the entire population becomes less fit as it gets weighed down by this genetic junk. Eventually, the load becomes so great that the population goes extinct. Sex provides a solution. It breaks the ratchet. The process of meiosis, where a cell shuffles its genes to make sperm or eggs, allows for recombination. This is where chromosomes swap pieces with each other. A parent might have two bad mutations on two different chromosomes. Through recombination, they can produce a gametee that has a chromosome with neither of those bad mutations. It's a genetic reset. When this clean gametee fuses with another gametee, it can create an offspring that is healthier and has fewer bad mutations than either of its parents. At the same time, recombination can also lump a whole bunch of bad mutations together into one unlucky offspring. This individual might not survive or reproduce, effectively removing a large chunk of bad mutations from the population's gene pool in one go. So, while the Red Queen hypothesis sees sex as a way to create new, good combinations, Muller's Ratchet sees it as a way to get rid of bad stuff. It's a genetic cleaning service. It prevents the slow decay of the genome over long periods. This might not provide an immediate dramatic advantage in a single generation, but over thousands of generations, it could be the difference between survival and extinction. A third idea is even more fundamental. It suggests that sex might have started as a DNA repair mechanism. DNA is a fragile molecule. It gets damaged all the time by radiation from the sun, by chemical toxins, or just by errors in the cell's own processes. A serious break in both strands of the DNA helix can be lethal. Most organisms have two copies of every chromosome. They are diploid. This provides a backup. If one copy is damaged, the cell can use the other copy as a template to repair the break accurately. This is a very effective system. The process of meiosis, which is at the heart of sex, requires the cell to line up its two homologous chromosomes perfectly. This pairing process is an ideal opportunity for the cell to check for and repair any damage. The argument is that sex, or at least the cellular machinery for it, might have first evolved simply as a highly efficient way to repair DNA. The genetic shuffling and the creation of a new organism might have just been a lucky side effect that later became its primary function. This idea is appealing because it provides a reason for the very first step. It's easy to see the immediate benefit for a single cell survival. A cell that can repair its DNA is better than one that can't. Perhaps this basic repair function came first, and then the other advantages, like fighting parasites and cleaning the genome, took over and made sex the dominant strategy for reproduction. Finally, there's an idea that is the flip side of Muller's ratchet. Instead of focusing on getting rid of bad mutations, it focuses on bringing good mutations together. This is sometimes called the Fisher-Muller hypothesis. Beneficial mutations, the ones that create a better protein or a more efficient process, are rare. In an asexual population, if two different beneficial mutations pop up in two different individuals, there is no easy way to get them both into the same organism. The only way it can happen is if the second mutation randomly occurs again in a descendant of the first individual. That could take a very long time. It's like waiting for lightning to strike the same spot twice. So, in an asexual population, evolution proceeds slowly, one mutation at a time. Sex changes everything. It allows for recombination. If a good mutation appears in one individual and another good mutation appears in another, sex can bring them together in their offspring in a single generation. The offspring now has both advantages. This massively speeds up the rate of evolution. It allows a population to adapt to new environments or new challenges much, much faster. Think of a population facing a changing climate. One mutation might provide better tolerance to heat. Another might provide better tolerance to drought. An asexual population would have to wait for both mutations to occur in the same lineage. A sexual population can combine them almost immediately, creating individuals that are both heat tolerant and drought tolerant. This ability to combine beneficial traits could be a huge advantage, especially in a world that is constantly changing. So we have these four big ideas. The Red Queen says sex is for fighting disease. Muller's Ratchet says it's for cleaning out bad genes. The DNA repair idea says it started as a maintenance tool. And the Fisher-Muller model says it's for combining good genes to speed up evolution. Which one is right? The answer is probably all of them. These hypotheses are not mutually exclusive. In fact, they work together beautifully. In an environment full of parasites, the Red Queen creates a strong pressure to adapt quickly. The mechanism that allows for this rapid adaptation is the ability of sex to bring beneficial mutations together, Fisher-Muller. At the same time, this whole process is kept from decaying into chaos by sex's ability to purge the genome of harmful mutations, Muller's Ratchet. And the whole cellular machinery might have gotten its start as a simple way to repair DNA. Different factors might be more important for different species or at different times. For a species with a short generation time that is under constant attack from a specific parasite, the Red Queen might be the main driver. For a very small population where random mutations can easily become fixed, Muller's Ratchet might be the biggest threat, making sex essential for long-term survival. The real power of sex is that it solves several different problems at once. That's likely why it's so widespread. Its benefits are layered, operating on different timescales, and in response to different pressures. But this is only part of the story. The evolution of gene shuffling is one thing. The evolution of two distinct sexes, male and female, is another. Why not have just one type of sex cell that fuses with any other? Or why not 3 sexes or 4? The earliest form of sexual reproduction was likely isogamy. This is where the sex cells or gametes are all the same size. Many algae and fungi still do this today. 2 gametes of roughly equal size meet and fuse to form a zygote. It's simple and it works. But isogamy has a built-in conflict. A zygote, the new fused cell, needs enough energy and resources to survive and grow. This means that a bigger gamete packed with more nutrients is better. However, an organism has a limited amount of energy to spend on making gametes. It faces a trade-off. It can make a few big, well-provisioned gametes, or it can make many small, cheap gametes. Making big gametes gives your offspring a great start in life, but because you can only make a few, the chances of one of them actually finding another gamete to fuse with are low. Making small gametes means you can produce millions of them, massively increasing the chances of finding a partner. But these small gametes don't have many resources, so the resulting zygote might be too poorly provisioned to survive. This is where a process called disruptive selection comes in. Imagine a population of organisms with gametes of various sizes. The individuals making the very biggest gametes have some success, because their offspring are very robust. The individuals making the very smallest, most numerous gametes also have success because they are great at finding partners. The ones who lose out are the ones in the middle. A medium-sized gamete is a bad compromise. It's not big enough to give the zygote a huge survival advantage, and it's not small and numerous enough to guarantee fertilization. So, natural selection starts to push the population towards the two extremes. It favors either a strategy of making big, rich gametes, or a strategy of making small, mobile ones. The middle ground gets eliminated. This is thought to be the origin of anisogamy, the system of having gametes of two different sizes. One type of gamete becomes very large, full of nutrients and immobile. We call this the egg. The organisms that produce these are, by definition, female. The other type of gamete becomes very small, jettisoning everything except its genetic material and a motor to get it to the egg. We call this the sperm. The organisms that produce these are, by definition, male. This simple difference in the size of the sex cells is the fundamental biological definition of male and female. It's not about chromosomes or body parts or behavior. It's about the size of the gamete. And it likely evolved from a simple trade-off between the size of a gamete and its number. Once the split happened, it set the stage for all the incredible diversity of sexual behaviors and strategies we see in the world today. The female strategy is typically about high investment in a few offspring. The male strategy is typically about low investment in many mating opportunities. This fundamental asymmetry is the engine behind much of sexual selection, from the peacock's tail to the stag's antlers. So the origin of sex is a story with two major acts. The first act is the invention of the process itself, the mixing of genes from two individuals. This was likely driven by a powerful combination of needs: the need to fight off rapidly evolving diseases, the need to purge the genome of accumulating errors, and the need to combine good mutations to adapt faster. The machinery for it may have even started as a simple DNA repair kit. The benefits were so great that they overcame the huge costs of this inefficient system. The second act is the refinement of that system into two distinct sexes. A simple physical trade-off between size and number split the population into two strategies: the producers of big, well-stocked eggs and the producers of small, mobile sperm. This created males and females and set in motion a whole new evolutionary game of sexual selection, which has shaped the bodies and minds of animals for hundreds of millions of years. The full picture is still being filled in. It's hard to find definitive evidence for events that happened a billion years ago in microscopic organisms. But by looking at the genetics of modern organisms, by creating mathematical models, and by studying the exceptions to the rule, like the few ancient asexual species that have somehow survived, we've pieced together a compelling story. It's a story about how life's biggest weakness, its vulnerability to disease and decay, forced it to invent its most creative solution. Sex is a gamble. It's a way of shuffling the genetic deck in every generation, betting that a new hand will be better than the last. It's a process born from conflict between host and parasite, between good genes and bad, and even between the gametes themselves. It's inefficient and costly, but it's also the source of the endless, beautiful diversity we see all around us. Without it, the world would be a much simpler and much more boring place. It is the engine of complexity, the master creator of novelty, and one of life's most profound and enduring mysteries.